and welcome to Curious About Nature podcast. I'm really delighted today as we have Rebecca Heaps joining us from Tentshare. Rebecca was a primary school teacher for about 10 years and has also worked in the construction industry and is founder of Tentshare, which launched in February 2020. Tentshare is a peer-to-peer tent matching service. Hello, Rebecca.
Hello, lovely to see you. Thank you for having me on your brilliant podcast.
It's a pleasure. It's been a while since we've had conversations. We've met through various business groups and obviously spent a summer on Clubhouse together, but it's been a long time, so it's really nice to catch up with you. I'm really curious to hear about Tentshare and share it with podcast listeners. Where did the idea of Tentshare come from?
So Tentshare is all about making an asset from something you already own, your tent, and that's exactly where it came from, because I was thinking of ways that I could utilise an asset I already own to make a bit more money. I have a beautiful bell tent, which I love, and I started renting that out to people locally, to families, to a wedding, and I rented it also. Actually, I gave that for free, but in a school, they had a school fair, and I had a little toddler tent with lots of toys in there and a nice safe space for the mummies to go. And it was successful. And so I thought, I'm going to try and extend this and grow it. So I'll put it on like an Airbnb type platform to get a better reach and a wider reach. And when I started looking, there just wasn't one. And that was when someone said to me, well, why don't you build one? And that is how Tentshare came into being. So Tentshare is for people to be able to list their tents and share them with people locally. And for someone who would like to go camping but doesn't want to invest in a tent or doesn't want to store a tent, you can rent one from someone local to you or from someone local to where you're going to camp.
It's a brilliant idea because my family, we love the outdoors. We don't own a tent at the moment, but we've got pop-up play tents, that kind of thing. And it's certainly something that we're very keen to encourage my daughter to be a bit more adventurous with getting outside and being away from home especially. So tell me a little bit more. How does it work then? If I was to get involved in Tentshare, how would it work?
Yeah, so there's two options to be involved in Tentshare. In fact, anyone can be involved, because if you're not a camper, this enables you to camp. But if you are a camper, this enables you to share your equipment and your tent. So basically, if you own a tent, and quite a lot of people have a few tents in their garage, coming to understand, because they use them for different purposes, or maybe they had a small tent and their family grew, so they bought a bigger tent. So often there's a few tents that are not being used. And even if you are a camper, you're probably only using it a few times a year. So this is an opportunity for you to share your tent with somebody who would like to go camping. So you put it onto the Tentshare website, and then if someone wants to use your tent, they can contact you through the website and arrange to rent your tent or borrow your tent. So you're in charge of the whole transaction. The tent owner, you can decide who you want to rent your tent to, whether you want to rent your tent. I've been doing it for the last 3 or 4 years, and I've never had an issue with anybody renting. Everyone's looked after it so carefully. But on the website, there's a deposit system, there's a review system. Basically, it works just like Airbnb. I was going to call it Fresh Airbnb, but I didn't think I would be able to take on Airbnb. And the other thing is, it stops people buying new tents. Yeah. Something like 250,000 tents go into landfill each year. And that's a terrible waste of the resources that we already own. And they're pretty much mostly made of plastics, different types of plastics, the nylon and the fiberglass poles and all of that. They don't go back into the earth. They just stay there, for goodness knows how long. It's a way of getting these tents out and used and stop the single use of tents.
It's such a brilliant idea on so many levels. You've got the money saving, you've got that whole potential to earn money from doing it. And then obviously, really importantly, the environmental aspect is just fantastic.
It's also the joy of sharing something that you absolutely love doing. So when I lend my tent out to people, they come back and they were like, oh, we had a brilliant time. I was never going to go camping, and I decided to try it, and we had a great time. We're going to do it again, and we're looking into buying a tent. And also, if you're looking into buying a tent, you can buy something that will really last, of a high quality, knowing that you can make some of the money back. So yeah, it's a way of reducing our consumption. And if we are going to consume, then making sure that we're buying the right thing for us. and for our needs.
Yeah, a great tip there, isn't it? Being a sort of try before you buy. It's a really good idea as well.
Yeah.
Which part of the UK, I'm just curious, has the most tents at the moment?
I think it's probably mostly around the Glastonbury area,
Yeah.
because I have a company, Camplight, who have hundreds of salvaged tents, and they have their tents on our website. And interestingly, Kieran have been working together, and they've just turned Camplight into a cooperative, and I'm now director of Camplight. So we're working really in conjunction to try and reduce tent waste across festivals, and with Tentshare it's more families and family camping. So
yeah, such a really great synergy, isn't there, between the two of you? Have you got any tips for first-time campers?
yeah, I would say choose your tent wisely and there's lots of blogs, but also lots of experienced people on the Tentshare website, and you can ask them. The best thing to do is to say, this is how I'm thinking of camping, and would this be a good tent to use it for that purpose? One of the greatest things to do is to camp out in your back garden. So rent a tent, camp out in your back garden, see if you like it, then you can pop inside and make yourself a cup of tea, or you can pop inside and get a hot water bottle if you get cold, and you can trial how you're going to enjoy it, and you still get the amazing benefits camping even if you're in your back garden. The other thing I would suggest is to spend time making sure that your bed is comfortable. So if you get a good night's sleep, you will have a wicked time. I can almost guarantee it. You'll, even if it rains, even if it doesn't go according to plan, so long as you have a good night's sleep, everything is just great fun. Oh, and the other thing is, if you're taking family camping, throw the routines out of the window. The children will just basically go feral, and they have the best time. So don't worry about bedtimes, even sometimes proper meal times, just go with the flow.
We went camping in a bell tent last summer. Yeah, my daughter was like, can we come back next week?
Yay!
No, she's definitely a convert, so that's really great. I'm looking forward to doing more of that. We're going to probably go a little bit more local this year, I think, just because we just fancy a few kind of like long weekend trips instead. You mentioned there about meal times a little bit, so have you got any recommendations for families that are camping together for meals?
Yes. In fact, me and a great company, Avni from Virtualicious, she's founder of Virtualicious, we have just put together a weekend meal planner for a family of 4. So my suggestion is to keep everything as simple as possible, but you want things as fresh and as healthy as possible. So our meal planner is curry, or you can even make it a stew if you're not a massive fan of the curries. So chop up some vegetables, take some meat, pre-chop everything before you go, especially for the first night. Do a 1-pot meal, bring some naan bread or pita bread. You only need basically 1 pot for that, and a campfire or one source of heat. Heat it up, and then you're good to go. And then the next night, I would say it is really nice if you've got an open fire to do some kebabs. So you get your fresh meat or your fresh vegetables and put them onto sticks and then skewer them. And Virtualicious have put together a package where you've got the barbecue sauce. She does curry in a hurry. So it's the pack. Yeah. So it's the flavouring and then some spices. And then it's got a little extra section, which I find really useful, where you add the heat in at the end.
Right. And then you can put it in for the right level for whoever's eating it. Yeah, exactly, we do a little bit of that. My daughter likes curry, but she doesn't like them spicy, so that's a good way of managing it, isn't it?
Exactly. So you just put a couple of pinches in just to give it that slight little edge, or you can whack the whole lot in if you like a nice hot curry. And then snacks, I think the main thing is just have a bunch of stuff to be able to chuck at the kids as they're running around. Like bananas are really good, grain bars, granular bars, and energy balls, they're really good.
Any suggestions for activities then for families? Obvious one is just let the kids go for it.
Yes, but if they're struggling, and sometimes if they haven't been camping before and they don't know what to do, one thing I did, I took my nieces and nephews camping, and they were slightly younger than my kids, and I printed off a little camping journal, and they are online on Etsy, and I think even if you just googled it you could get some. And basically it was like a little journal of everything that they'd done each day, unusual things that they'd seen, and there were lots of things that they could fill in, and little quizzes, camping quizzes and word searches, so if they're feeling a bit lost they can come and sit in the tent and just do a bit of colouring and a little bit of relaxation, and then they can bring that home and they've got a little memory of their first camping trip. Top trumps is also a good one because everyone can play that pretty much. Bring a ball for sure. And then one thing I love to do is I get the children to sit in silence for 5 minutes and try and remember all the things that they can hear. One of the campsites we go to, we can hear the sea. If we're quiet, it really brings quite a meditative feel to them, and they'll hear things that they wouldn't ordinarily hear just in the everyday. So that's a really nice activity. Really slows them and gets them concentrating on what's around them.
We did a little bit of stargazing because we were up on the hillside in Wales, which was really nice to do. Where we live, we're quite lucky, to be honest, the street lighting. But yeah, it's one of our favourite things is stargazing at night.
Absolutely.
And staying up a little bit later is fun anyway, isn't it? It's that not going to bed at the normal times. It's really exciting.
Yeah. And hot chocolates as well. Lots of hot chocolates. And of course, you've got to do your toasted marshmallows over the campfire if you're allowed a campfire. But you can also do it, you can get one of those self-contained grills, like barbecues. You can toast marshmallows over those as well.
Have you got any favourite places that you've visited, maybe as a family or as an individual, that you want to share with us?
St David's in Wales. I used to go there with a group of families when my kids were really little. We would camp on this cliff edge. We could have 3 different weather fronts across the view that we could see. It was absolutely beautiful, and the coast along that way is absolutely glorious. So yeah, highly recommend that for a family. Norfolk, I absolutely adore. I've got this great campsite that I go to. I think it's called Walnut Tree Farm campsite, and you can walk to, they've got a private access to the beach. So you basically can pitch your tent and then run down to the beach. It's close enough that it's not too exhausting for the kids, and you can hear it at night. And then the Black Mountain in Wales. I used to go there as a child. I didn't camp as a child, funnily enough, but I absolutely love camping now. And I have booked to go and camp in the Black Mountains. And there's also 2 great clubs that you can join. There's the Greener Camping Club, and they have campsites that don't allow vehicles on site. So you have to park your vehicle outside, that doesn't have great big parties and doesn't have huge groups of people, so that you're really immersing yourself into the natural order of things. And then there's a company called Nearly Wild Camping, which I've just discovered, and they're very similar. So you've got some facilities there, but it's kept very low key. But there are also campsites where you can go and there's got a swimming pool and activities and stuff for the kids to do and a pub on site. That's also a great thing. So it's about what sort of camping you want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes you want that kind of connection with nature and having something which is quiet and peaceful, and then other times you just need that kind of organised activity or opportunity to do stuff. And I guess some kids prefer one to another as well. So knowing your own family and what they're interested in is going to make that decision easier. You touched on this already, Rebecca. Camping is really great for that connection with nature. How do you think we can encourage children's connection with nature further?
Just getting outside as much as possible. During lockdown, I did a foraging course. I took my daughter and we went and foraged for some rosehip berries, and made some lovely rosehip syrup. And rosehip has got more vitamin C, like 20 times more vitamin C than an orange, and it's a local resource. So it's indigenous to the UK. So yeah, foraging is great fun. The children love that because they're looking for something. It's like a little hide and seek. They're picking something, they're bringing something home and making something useful. So that's a fun activity to do. And then talking about it, looking at it and being in it and acknowledging with them what a great resource our planet is and what a great resource we have in nature.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we enjoy doing as a family is when it gets to wild garlic season, we got a couple of places quite close to our house that that smell, which I know some people don't like.
Yeah.
But I absolutely love potato and garlic soup, and it's the cheapest meal possible, but it's really tasty. And interestingly, it was my daughter's childminder when she was about 2 introduced me to it, and was like, yeah, we went foraging and then they made this soup together, which is a really lovely way of connecting, I think, with the food that we grow and what's available to us.
Another good one is pine needle tea. So if you take the pine needles, just the ends and the pine needles, and boil them up, and the taste was actually really nice. It was really lemony. It was quite an unusual taste, and that's an easy win for the kids because you're actually making something, you can see it happening, and then it tastes not too bad.
Yeah. So we haven't really come on to sharing in this podcast yet, and it'd be really great to hear from you. What is the sharing economy? So obviously Tentshare is part of that philosophy, that idea. But could you tell us a little bit more about what it is?
Yeah, the sharing economy is basically organised sharing. Airbnb is a great example. If you've got a room and you would like to make a bit of money from it, then you can rent it out. Tentshare is offering a platform for you to share the thing that you own. There are other ways of how sharing economy works where you have a stock of items, like a stock of cars. You've seen the zip cars, they're a sharing economy. So you have a stock of cars and people are allowed to share them. So yeah, that's basically how it works. But the point is that we have taken too much from the planet. We already have enough resources. If we stopped making clothes tomorrow, we'd be able to dress from what we've already got. We'd be able to dress the next 6 generations globally. We've all got enough things in our world, especially in the UK, that we shouldn't really be having to take anything new from the planet. And so the sharing economy is a way of reducing our need to consume, but also getting the thing that we want. So I declared it a while ago, didn't I? Ownership is dead and sharing is rising. So it's going to take a massive mindset shift because people like to own things. People like to have things. But I do believe that the younger generation, as they're coming through, are more open to not having ownership and are way more open to sharing their things. I'm hoping it's going to become more of a common thing to share, to have organised sharing. So that's the sharing economy in a nutshell.
No, it is important, isn't it, that we start to change our mentality on those things. I agree with you. I've seen some really great examples locally as well. We have a village Facebook group where you can share, and the idea is that it can either be given away permanently, or you can put your hand out and say, look, I'm looking for a tool to do some DIY, for instance. Instead of going out and buying that, you can borrow it from your neighbour for free. And through that, we've had almost new beds from it for my daughter. We've done toy swaps. The other day, she said she wanted to read Harry Potter. So I just put out a little note saying, hey, we'd like to read Harry Potter this weekend. Has anyone got any of the books? 2 minutes later, come round to my house and collect them. It's that kind of little bit of give and take with your neighbours. And I've had conversations that I wouldn't have had with people who live 5-6 streets away from me. And it's just really lovely. I borrowed a jacket recently for the Theopathitis conference. And it was from an older lady. And she said, I don't get to wear it anymore. You're very welcome to, borrow it anytime. And then we got into a conversation about what she'd done in her career, and it was just really nice having that connection. So it was that way to get to know people as well, and that kind of community vibe is really important. It'd be great if we could get that back, definitely. And I think that sharing of resource helps bring people together in a way that you don't get. You mentioned about the stories, people telling you about their experiences, and that's just really wonderful, having that kind of connection with people.
And it's absolutely, it creates a community like Tentshare. People who upload and list their tents to the website, you're becoming part of a community, a like-minded community. We're all willing sharers, and we're all ready to do the best we can to help to share our resources with each other. So you've already got a little ready-made community of people who have the same passions and interests as yourself, like camping and looking after nature and being willing to share. And so, it starts to build a really good community.
We've got a couple more questions for you, Rebecca, about the environmental impact. So you touched on the point of why it's so important that we maybe change the way that we think about how we use resources, get resources. Do you know what the environmental impact is of staying local versus travelling abroad?
It's a huge carbon saving to stay local. As soon as you start flying, you're just using loads of carbon. Also, there's a great carbon saving when you reuse an item. Every time an item gets reused, the carbon footprint lowers. And I've spent some lovely conversations with Eamon, who I think you're having on the podcast or have had on the podcast, from No Carbon, and he has worked out the value of tents and different types of tents, and also worked out the savings that you do every time you use one. An average festival tent is about 3.2 kg of carbon, but that doesn't sound like much, which is equivalent to about 350 plastic bottles. Doesn't sound like much, but when you think that someone's just going to use it once at a festival and then throw it away, if you can keep those out of landfill and start using them, the carbon footprint lowers. We're not buying any more new ones. You can see the environmental impact of reusing and using our resources. Shall I tell you about what we just did with Camplight? So Camplight was commissioned to provide 300 tents for a film set. So we went and pitched up 300 tents, and it was for like a refugee apocalyptic type campsite. So it had to be all like dodgy looking tents and stuff like that. The film set were going to buy all new tents. Camplight has got a stock of salvaged tents, so they're being reused again. They created a much better looking refugee sort of camp, apocalyptic camp, so it did really well. And then at the end we went and picked them all up. We've packed them all away, we've repaired them all, and they're ready now to be rented out to festival goers. But there were a certain amount that got ruined. But what I've done is we've dried those, we've folded them up, and I found two companies who want to take them and repurpose them into bags, flags. So again, keeping everything out of landfill. And they'll use the straps and the clips and the zips and the poles. In fact, I've got my poles are my tomato sticks. Yeah. I've got some poles as used as tomato sticks. So everything, as far as possible, is kept out of landfill. And that's the key. If you've got two takeaways, is keep your carbon emissions down, keep things out of landfill. Those two sort of mantras in your head, you're going to be doing good for the planet and good for our society.
All of this great work that you've been doing has won you a P Award. And I was so pleased when you won that. You really deserved it, Rebecca.
Thanks.
What did it mean to you?
Oh, it was amazing. It was amazing. It meant so much. I was totally overwhelmed on the night. I really didn't think I was going to win. But what it meant was it was an affirmation, and it was a reflection of the good works that are being done. And it wasn't just for Tentshare. I was on a table with other sustainable and purpose-led businesses. One of them came up to me and they said it felt like that award was for all of us. And I totally 100% agree, because there are a lot of purpose-led and passion-led businesses who are trying to do something different, something new, and something more sustainable in the world of business. When you're a disruptor, you often don't get a lot of support from people, especially from the people you're disrupting. And so to have that award and to have that acknowledgement made me feel like, yeah, I'm just going to keep going with it. I'm going to keep moving forward. It's the right thing to do. It is best for our future and our kids' futures to try and change and disrupt the way we currently do business, the way that currently we're set up to consume as a society, and to flip that on our head, but also without compromise. We don't all have to go and start eating oatmeal and wearing cloth sacks. We can share our resources and we can have all our lovely shiny things. Just don't keep making new and throwing away what we've already got. It doesn't have to be a compromise. It's a new and a better way. I've gone on a rant now, haven't I? So the award meant so much to me, and the whole evening was terrifically glamorous and gorgeous and sumptuous, but it was all vegan, a beautiful vegan meal. It was all sustainable products that were being used. Most of us were wearing stuff that we already owned or were borrowed or had hired from, because there was a sharing economy platforms for clothes and fashion. And we still had the most glorious time, but it was with a huge sustainable bent to it. Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah. Final thing then, Rebecca, what's next for Tentshare?
Tentshare needs to grow. My vision is that we have a tent in every city, or at least 10 tents in every town, village, city, available to rent if you want to, and for people to make money from. And so the more people who can list it onto the website, the better, and you can choose to rent it or not rent it as you so wish when they pop up on the map.
Yes.
So I want to see all over the UK and Ireland tents available everywhere to share and to use, and people outside getting into camping and having a wicked time.
Yeah, what better way to connect with nature? Thank you so much, Rebecca from Tentshare, joining us. Anyone listening, please get on to Tentshare and list your tent and get involved in sharing. So thank you, and we'll see you again soon, hopefully, Rebecca. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Rachel. It's been such a pleasure to talk to you again. So nice to see you. Absolutely love what you're doing as well. Oh, and poster.
Yeah.
One of Rachel's Buttercup posters is behind me. It's absolutely beautiful. Get a lot of good comments about that.
Yeah, no, it's beautifully illustrated by Grace, as always. Thanks.